we can also express more kindly what is meant by discipline and mastery. You listen to the voice of your soul and carry out, against all odds, what it advises you to do. Your eternal individuality takes your perishable personality by the hand, so to speak, like a little sibling, talks to it with love and severity, and leads it on the right path. Your little self should learn to listen to this voice as to that of a big brother. How does the soul speak to me? In your heart. If you only listen attentively, you will hear. The soul seeks not physical, but spiritual pleasures. The desire for self-indulgence changes to spiritual satisfaction. Your true eternal self has no desire for all the material things for which your body begs like a dog. Nothing earthly can satisfy the soul, which is not of this earth. Self-perfectment is light. Self-indulgence is darkness. Listening to the voice of the heart means vice versa, not listening to the voice of the lower self. Through much practice, you have to acquire a vital skill. Every moment, distinguish clearly which of your two natures, the divine or the poisonous snake, is about to talk to you. Fulfillment of the body's desire leaves the soul with remorse and a painful longing for something higher. The satisfaction derived from the gratification of personal will and desire is infinitesimal by comparison with the remorse and sorrow which will follow when the soul memory has flashed a completed scene of the results of such selfish gratification. Schiller tells us with eternal words, we must choose between satisfying the body and pacifying the soul. Zwischen Sinnenglück und Seelenfrieden bleibt dem Menschen nur die bange Wahl. Auf der Stirn des hohen Uraniden leuchtet ihr vermählter Strahl. Between joy of the senses and peace of mind, man is left with an anxious choice. On the brow of the high Uranid shines their wedded ray. Mastery of the body can only be achieved if you are constantly on your guard and fight off relentlessly every temptation. The school of discipline teaches you to refrain from everything that harms the body, that impairs its suitability as a tool. The easiest way is to make a firm decision, to simply stop doing certain things automatically and without thinking about it. For example, not to eat meat or sweets, not to drink wine, or not to smoke anymore. As in heaven, so on earth. That what does not exist in your paradise, in your teacher's ashram, you must not enjoy on the material plane either, if you wish to establish and spread heaven down here as well. Didn't we say that establishing the fiery state is the panacea against desires of the body? Yes, certainly. In the fiery state, the body has no desire. But as long as this condition has not yet become flesh and blood, and the fiery body is not permanently established, discipline is required in addition. Often your soul has already reached the point where it has discarded its desires and, for example, no longer has an appetite for alcohol or cigarettes, and it's only habit that makes you grab at them. Then discipline is the only thing that helps. To renounce the satisfaction of the desires and instincts of the body is the first and least of the sacrifices needed for climbing the next step of evolution. The higher pleasures of a spiritual being, such as meditation, require giving up lower physical enjoyments. You know yourself very well. When you have eaten too much or too heavy food, you will no longer be able to conduct a spiritual conversation with your soulmates in the world beyond. I am no longer allowed at all to enjoy my body and, for example, eating. I don't want to be understood that way. We are not fanatics. Man consists of spirit and matter, of soul and body. You may enjoy the delights of both aspects of your being. The soul only tells you, don't eat just because you have an appetite. But if you have to eat, do it with pleasure. It is crucial that the physical pleasure should not be of such an extent that it harms the balance of the two aspects of your being and the development of your soul. As always, here as well applies it is the dose that causes the damage. A piece of chocolate, a glass of wine, or a cigarette a week will do you almost no harm at all. The body can easily cope with that. What is dangerous is first the excess, and then, from its consolidation, the habit. How do I recognize the right measure? There is a very simple criterion for this. If the evening meditation no longer succeeds, you have enjoyed too much of material pleasures. You see again how vital it is to fix a daily rhythm and especially an unalterable meditation time for the evening as well. If you are looking forward to meeting your teacher soon, you will automatically refrain from everything which, as you know from your own painful experience, will render the connection impossible. I would like to make another attempt to make spiritual discipline palatable to you and to let it appear in a different light. A spiritual being looks forward with longing to the evening meditation. It is the crowning conclusion of the day to step before the teacher, to leave the low earthly emanations, and to return to the high vibration of the sanctuary of your eternal home. First, learn and practice to actually experience this supreme bliss. A time of happiness. Thus we call that step in the development of consciousness when, without turning away from life, our co-workers are given the opportunity to join us in our abode. Once you have really experienced this happiness, you will never ever again want to miss it. Then the rules about rhythm of the day, nutrition and everything else will lose their scare, because you realize these laws are nothing but necessary conditions for the highest joy. Then you will keep them not because they are prescribed, but because they produce happiness. Probably the most important aspect of controlling the body is proper nutrition. Here again, body and soul pursue directly opposing interests. This is a crucial battlefield. Here, it first and foremost transpires how strong your spirit really is. You may be assured, there where food is eaten out of desire and not out of necessity, you are still among old men. No more holy function exists than that of supplying nourishment to the body. No more degrading process can be conceived than that of gorging the stomach for mere appetite's sake. We had already talked about this topic in the broadcasting Nourishment According to Spiritual Principles. The education of the body also includes the mastery of the sexual instinct. The broadcasting on sexuality deals with this question. Here, too, is revealed how much power your spirit has already acquired. However, no one can completely control his atavistic animal nature as long as he is incarnated in a physical body. So long as man is bound by the conditions of matter, so long he will remain to a greater or lesser degree the slave of those conditions. So long as the ego retains a body, it cannot be perfect in the sense that the Absolute is perfect. The gulf between spirit and matter is impassable. Matter must be reduced to pure energy before that gulf can be crossed. It is of no use, or at any rate of little value, if you suppress the craving of your body outwardly by retiring to a monastery or undergoing a fasting cure, as long as inwardly you continue to be consumed with longing for material pleasures. Ultimately, therefore, we find the mastery of the physical body boils down to the mastery of your thoughts and feelings. We shall talk about this matter in more detail in the following broadcastings of the series Education. There is another, quite simple, but highly efficient exercise that helps you to rule your body. You have chosen an ideal according to which you want to form your true self, your eternal individuality. In the higher world, in eternity, you wish to be a disciple, a teacher, a saint, a spiritual warrior, a king of the spirit, or a healer. Now, let this ideal become material reality. You accompany all your words and deeds with the thought that it is not your body that speaks or acts, but your soul. There appears on the stage of the material world the ideal person which you are, or at least which you want to be in the subtle world. Or, better still, the holder of an office for disciple, teacher, saint, spiritual warrior, king of the spirit, or healer is an office. How does that work? While your body is acting on earth, your soul in heaven thinks at the same time. The disciple, or the king of the spirit, eats. That is, he feeds and waters his donkey, observing, of course, the rules about nourishment according to spiritual principles. Otherwise, he would not be a disciple. The disciple is on his way to work or shopping. The disciple causes his vehicle to earn a living by earthly labor. The disciple is indulging in a moment of rest and relaxation. The disciple devotes himself to a visitor who asks for his help. The disciple notices a dispute and attempts to settle it, and so on. You always appear with your ideal, with your office. When you get into the habit of this practice, it will, of course, be inconceivable to think the disciple of the brotherhood, or the king of the spirit, or even the teacher, scolds, curses, screams, complains, or wails, yields to the begging of the body, eats meat or more than necessary, drinks alcohol, and so on. You feel immediately it is not the disciple, the ideal, who lets himself go like this, but it is your perishable personality that breaks through. By maintaining the consciousness of your higher self at every moment through this exercise, you automatically avoid all expressions of your lower ego,